All right. And then we have one more client I'd like you to hear from. Donald Johnston. I met him. I talked to him on the phone, but I met him in Cumberland. It was a Cumberland County Courthouse. And his was an interesting story. And it's a heartbreaker. As a mom and a grandma, it's a heartbreaker to hear these things that happen. And I want you to be as proud of him when you hear his story as his wife Heather is. And you know, his sister Jessica just threw him a kiss. She came to support him today, and they had a chance to meet and greet. But it's stories like this that make this job worthwhile. So let's hear your story, Donnie.
See if I can get this thing up high enough. I want to thank you all for letting me tell my testimony today. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for allowing me to be your guest. I'm going to try and not get too emotional. It is an emotional story for me because it is my own story. But I'm from Mechanicsville, Virginia. I don't know who all's familiar with Mechanicsville, but it's just up the street, not far away. My name is Donald Johnston. I was born and raised in Mechanicsville, lived there most of my young adulthood and my young life. Had a great family, still have a great family, a loving family that had given me every opportunity in the world to succeed when I was a young man. And unfortunately for me, I had an affinity for walking in that gray area. For those of you not familiar with that metaphor, the gray area is that area between light and darkness where moral compromise tends to happen, the good and the evil. And I had a pastor one time tell me that the gray area is especially dangerous because the monsters that lurk in the darkness are waiting there, right on the edge of the gray, to snatch you and to take you into the darkness. And it really resonated with me, but that was never more true for me than one night in October of 2013. Had some friends over to the house. We were partying and drinking into the wee hours of the morning, and some of us didn't even go to sleep that night. The next day, I was going to head to Mechanicsville to see my parents, and definitely did not wait enough time for that alcohol to get out of my system. Was in a car crash right there on Bell Creek Road between Pole Green Road and Walmart. It was a head-on collision going about 45 miles an hour. I don't really remember a whole lot about that day and about that accident, but I do remember waking up in the hospital with my sister and my mom and dad standing over me, you know, wondering if I was okay. About 48 hours or so later, I went home, was out for probably close to a year, and the police showed up at work one day and arrested me for DUI manslaughter. About a year later, I was sentenced to 12 years in the Department of Corrections. And I'm gonna tell you, it was a serious reality check for me. It was something that I never thought that I would experience, something that I never thought I'd go through. And it was tough knowing that person had died. And it was just, it ate me alive. Knowing what I had done to that person, thinking about what I had put their family through, what I had put my own family through. The actions that I had taken that day, they would eat me alive at night. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I would cry myself to sleep in my cell. I mean, it was the darkest moments of my life, it really was. And I remember, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. Being on the cell floor that night, and I was just bawling my eyes out, and something told me to pray. And it was the first time that I had ever sincerely and with my entire heart just talked to God. And I sat there and I prayed for about a half hour on that floor, tears in my eyes, just hysterical. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was gonna answer me a lot sooner than I thought he was. About a half hour later, like I said, I opened my eyes, and over in the corner on my little table, I noticed that there was a blue book. And for inmates, we know everything that's in the cell. You don't have very much, so you know everything that's there. So I didn't recognize this book that was over in the corner, and I went over to it, and in gold letters on the front of it, it said Holy Bible. And I had never read any scripture, had never been in the Word at all. So I just opened it to the page in the middle. And the first thing I saw in bold letters was Psalm 23. It's a song written by David, King David. And it's about him and his relationship with God in some of his darkest times. And his darkness was different than mine, but it was God accompanying him through that darkness that really resonated with me. And it was right then and there and on his cell floor with tears in my eyes that I gave my life to God. But then But it was a change that it came over me, and it wasn't all at one time. It was a gradual change, but it was a change to where he gave me the change to want to start helping people, to make up for what I had done. A change in myself that made me just want to better myself and to become the best version of myself. And he gave me a fear that all that time that I was going to spend in a correctional facility was just going to be wasted time, and that I couldn't have that happen because it scared me to death that it was just going to be 8 years of nothingness. So I took every opportunity that I was afforded, and thankfully for the Department of Corrections, they really have done a good job of putting programs in place for people inside to really better themselves. I started, tutoring GED classes. I was blessed with an incredible education. Went to Fork Union Military Academy, was a graduate from there, and loved it. That actually planted the seed for faith that would take nearly 20 years to grow. Like I said, I was just able to give back from the blessing that God had given me in my young adulthood to where I was able to help some of these guys get their GED. Started it in Pamunkey Regional Jail. A lot of people were trying to get their GED, but they didn't have anybody to really help guide them. And I just happened to walk out the cell one night, and these guys have got textbooks all over the table, and they just have a confused look on their face. So I kind of just walk over to them, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing, And they asked me for help. They knew that I had, had a decent education and plenty of opportunities when I was young, and I just started helping these guys. A group of about 4 or 5 ended up growing to about 20 guys. And we were doing GED, math, and English, and every subject that we could in all of our free time. And that was a way that I was able to give back to some of the other guys for something that I had received so long ago. I started taking every class that I was able to: Foundations of Restaurant Management, Safe Serve, BSA, Business Software Applications, Computer Concepts. I took a Pesticide Register Technicians class. I mean, I did everything. If it came across the table, I was there. You could count on it. But like I said, it was all generated from a fear that, it was just going to be wasted time. So it just kept me motivated to always continue to better myself and continue to learn everything that I could and help everybody that I could help along the way. And it was actually in the process of helping one of those guys. He kind of big, burly guy. Everybody was scared of him. I'm not going to lie to you. He had a frightening look about him. But he was working at the wastewater plant at Rustburg Correctional Facility. And he was having trouble with some of the math and some of the other, memory things. And he came to me one day and he was like, hey, man, I hear you're the guy to talk to learn how to do some like algebra and things of that nature. And if you wouldn't mind helping me, I would really appreciate it. And we worked for about 2 weeks before he took his wastewater operator's exam. And we were grinding. We were grinding. I mean, I was trying to beat 10 years worth of education into his head in 2 weeks. But he was a smart guy, so he was able to really take it in. And he ended up passing his test. And he gave me the opportunity to go down there and work with him. He was leaving in about a year, and that apprenticeship spot was opening up. So I was able to take full advantage of that apprenticeship, and actually ended up leaving corrections with my Class 2 wastewater operator's license. So, and that's something that I'm still being able to use to this day. I'm actually a wastewater operator for a county municipality, and actually recently just was promoted to the superintendent of that plant after about a year of working there. About a year about a year or so before I got out, my lovely wife, she was not my wife at the time, but we started really reconnecting. We had talked periodically throughout my incarceration, met talk once a month, maybe once every couple months. And then at the same time, I was really stepping into my faith journey. She was also stepping into hers. We never really talked about it, but she had gone through her own struggles and was building her relationship with God at the same time I was. We were building our relationships, but separately. And it was kind of strange how it just came together one day. We just started talking about God over the phone. And, these once a month conversations went to once a week conversations, went to once a day conversations, and then we were talking to each other 4 times a day. She was coming to visit me every weekend. And I think we waited, 48 hours? And we ran to the James River in Cartersville after I got out to get baptized. We couldn't wait. I proposed that same day, and she said yes. We were married a short time later, and I'm going to tell you what, she has been my biggest supporter throughout all of this, and I could not have done it without her. But since then, like I said, all good things. I was able to get that the opportunity with the county plant. But one of my stipulations was I had 6 months to obtain a driver's license, and I had no clue how to do it. My wife had actually it was her son's father's brother. He had actually used Miss Wilson in the Drive to Work program. And so he put me in touch with Miss Wilson. And I'm gonna tell you what, Miss Wilson was absolutely incredible in navigating this process for me. I would never have been able to do it without her. She told me what to do, when to do it, where to be. She pretty much told me everything but what to say. But she even did that a little bit too. But she was absolutely incredible. And like I said, I would have never been able to do it without her. So I would really like to take a chance to just thank her for that.